Good evening. I'd like to call to order the City Council meeting for May 1st, 2017. Please stand for invocation. And Councilperson Ron Ellis, please lead us.
Let us pray. Most gracious God, we come once again seeking to do your will. Lord, we need your guidance. Grant us wisdom. Grant us patience. Grant us understanding. Lord, we know that all the things that we do are not all the things that we would do right. But we know that if we put you first, we allow you to lead us, all that we do and all that we say will be your will. Lord, we also ask that you look out far and send your healing mercies to our fellow council person, Scott Maples. Lord, bless him, strengthen him, bring him back to us. And Lord, with all the other problems and things that we're associated with, help us to understand, help us to make right decisions, and help us mostly to continue to believe on you. We ask this and many other blessings in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord, our Savior. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Ron. Have a roll call, please.
Councilperson White.
Present.
Councilperson Sestovny.
Here.
Councilperson Yon.
Present.
Councilperson Hawkins.
Here.
Council President Gill.
Here.
Councilperson Ellis.
Here.
Council Vice President Samuel.
Here.
Let the record reflect 7 council members present, Councilperson Maples and Councilperson Owens absent.
Yes, and as we know, Councilperson Maples is in the hospital. That's why we said prayers for him, and Councilperson Owen is out of town. So I have approval of the minutes from our regular proceeding of April 17th.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Can I have approval of the agenda?
If there are no changes, I move that we approve the agenda as submitted.
Second.
Got a motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Got claims to be approved, and let's have the general claims first, please, Heather.
I have one reduction on page 9. Under the economic development income tax, there's a claim for $311.21. That included a late charge that we're having taken off of $14.82, so it brings it down to $296.39. That brings the new total to $2,298,071.45.
Yep. And I did go through the claims, and we caught that, and we do have some, make sure we do get some signage done, or signatures for it.
Yep.
I'll make the motion to approve the claims at $2,298,071.45.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and second. Any further discussions or any questions for Heather or myself? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? General claims pass. Parks claims, please.
Those are for $164,179.64. It's the same, 164, 179.64. There were no changes from the docket.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further questions or discussion for Heather or myself? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Report of the clerk.
Yes, I have one thing. Last meeting, you all had signed, approved an additional appropriations at ordinance 2017 OR 19. I need you to re-sign, and I can show you on the page why. Got in the hand of a child. Somebody let a child draw on it, so we need to re-sign it.
Now, why would you say that about me in public meeting?
Well, because you know how I think about you, Larry.
Come on, Vicky.
Are you going to pass that down now?
Mhm.
Okay. Did you have anything further?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. So we move on to our unfinished business, which is Heather Metcalf. It was tabled last meeting, the ordinance for additional appropriation, and our public hearing is now scheduled for 5:15. Correct?
Yes. This one I was requested to include all departments for what would be needed for their accrued benefits if they choose to use them in that way. Also included on the very last one is for the Parks Department for that $65,917. That is to reappropriate the receipts from the UEZ for their portion of Hamhead and Security 4. Or is that right? Security, is that how you say it? Security 4?
K4 Security.
Yeah, that one. So those receipts have already been received.
On your salaries, and so if you hear, does this take into the account, because you know the majority of the, some employees have the 80/20? Was that figured in this? Was that make effect because they do not get 100% of their
True.
salary out of general fund?
That's true. I did not think of that. I apologize. So I can reduce those departments.
I know we have some that in drainage and wastewater that get paid 20%. Or I think Andy.
Andy
is
does,
he-
yes. IT has some, law has some, finance has some.
But as far as advertisement, we'll be fine because we
Yes,
advertise higher
yes,
now.
I can adjust those, yes.
Is, another question, Heather, did you say this is for potential buyback?
Yes. Some employees may choose to actually have the time off. Some employees may actually have their anniversary date hit and would
And this
get
is
more.
all addressing for 2017,
Yes.
nothing for 2016? Okay.
And then it's been requested right by the council to include this in the budget for 2018, is that correct? I'm assuming?
I believe.
Of course, it would go through the administration too.
I was really shocked, the numbers, because you know I get sticker shock easy anyhow. But I just wish this was brought to our attention. We could have discussed it in length during budget hearing time, but it is what it is.
Do you have a total for all of the?
Yes, actually on your sheet that you got for the
Mhm.
that I gave you.
Am I missing?
It's totaled on the bottom. Looks like the general fund was $83,144. Motor vehicle was $26,295. Sanitation is $27,665. And the Parks Department was already adjusted for in their budget.
When you add all the accrued benefits, this is a quick addition. It's like close to 100,000. Sound right? 100,000.
And that was taking into account those that had time up to the 10 days and also those that don't have that much time available.
Anybody have any questions for Heather?
I guess my question, the accrued benefits, they're maintained by our HR department? Is that right?
The
Collateral?
then payroll,
Our payroll system keeps track of all that?
yes.
Thanks.
I'll make a motion to approve 2017 OR 20 on the first and second.
Second?
Got a motion and a second to pass 2017 OR 20 on first and second. Any further discussion or comment? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
And then the transfer ordinance has not changed.
Oh, you're going right on in, thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve 2017 OR 21 on the third and final reading.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to pass 2017 OR 21 on third and final. Since nothing has changed, I'm assuming there's no other comments, so all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Heather.
And
Kim
just a
Colella.
thought on the additionals, I may have adjusted those for the difference in departments,
You
like
need
the
to double
80/20, but I will definitely double check, yeah. A week ago was a long time ago, so.
Kim Calabro, 2017 OR 22, an ordinance amending the ordinance 2016 OR 64, fixing the salaries of appointed officer employees. We did pass this in first and second, nothing's changed. Nope. If nobody has anything further for Kim, I will entertain a motion.
Woo.
I'll make a motion to approve 2017 OR 22 on the third and final reading.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. In my first and second motion.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Who's messing
Motion
us up?
carries.
Yeah, what was that?
I went backwards,
Right?
didn't I? Making sure everybody's awake.
Aye.
So we will move on to new business. I think, Larry, we got the contract or the resolution approving collective bargaining agreement between the City of Jeffersonville, Local Jeffersonville, Local 558, and we do have, if anybody has any questions, I believe that Sergeant Brian Emerson will answer any questions if he needs to. He's in the audience, but Larry, I'll let you.
Sure. As you all are aware, there's been a proposal presented from the group that negotiated the contract and went through the negotiations process with the firefighters union, and it also involved the chief throughout the process. And I think that at this time you have the opportunity to either move to act on it without discussion, or you can open discussion among yourselves, or you can make inquiry as to the representative of the fire department. So that's your proclivity, and I guess that this is being presented by which council member is presenting it from, Mr. Hawkins. So I guess you probably get to decide whether you want to call for a discussion, call for a vote, or open the floor for discussion. Not to give you another opportunity to make a decision, by no means.
Madam Clerk, what number is this?
What will the resolution number?
It's taking me a minute. 4.
4?
Yes.
You don't sound convinced, Dustin.
Seems like a low number.
Well, I think we've, unless you'll be able to tell what I'm going to say, so you can stop me if you need to. But I think we've all had enough time to look at this and discuss and ask questions. But before we bring it to a vote, I would like to thank the guys that represented their side. They did a fantastic job. Always easy to work with. The back and forth was sometimes tense, but it was always respectful. They did a great job representing their membership. I hope it, since we put it together, I certainly hope it passes. But that's why you vote on these things. But just a thank you to the guys that we worked with. And then if anyone has any questions, I'll entertain them. I'm about a second away of asking for a vote.
Councilman, if I may? I think that this is something of this importance that affects a major department in the administration, and so many workers of our city. I think it demands that the full council be able to vote on this, and with having certain members not here today, I think it would be more appropriate if we tabled this until our next meeting, which gives everyone a chance to weigh in on the contract.
Well, that's not on, I don't get to entertain whether or
Is
not
that-
it's...
And with that, I would make the motion to
You
table.
make that, okay. Does that, do we have a second to the motion to table until full council is able to vote?
I'll second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, okay. All those opposed to not
So
tabling?
did you all do that roll?
Yeah, I
Can
didn't
we get a
know.
roll call, please?
Yeah.
Can we get a roll
I
call?
heard an eye on my way to hand something out.
It's another new procedure I have to do according to state, so, just a second. Councilperson White,
Aye.
Councilperson Sestavny,
No.
Councilperson Yon,
Aye.
Councilperson Maples, absent, Councilperson Hawkins,
Aye.
Council Vice President Samuel,
No.
Councilperson Ellis,
Aye.
Council President Gill.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Then it is tabled, and keep this on the agenda, and hopefully we have Scotty with us at our next meeting, and Matt will be returned from out of town.
So, just kind of for clarification, I'm sure you guys understand, so obviously, your old contract's still your contract, and come back on the 22nd. 1 and 7 is 8, and 8 and 7 is 15. You tell I went to Hanover, can't you? No math at that school, 15.
Okay. Moving on, we've got our Parks Authority presentation, and I do believe Matt's here.
Next meeting is May 15th, correct?
22nd.
22nd? 15th? I don't pull out my calendar.
Today's the 1st, that's
Yeah.
right.
2 weeks from now, right?
Be the 15th.
Can I change this to my computers? Is that all right? Does it display on? Hey,
Wait, is that a Cleveland Browns helmet? Is that a Browns helmet there?
Is there a Cleveland Browns helmet in the background?
no. It's, I'll show you.
Sure.
That is a
Clemson
Clemson.
Tiger.
Okay.
Yeah, the Cleveland Browns just came off a great draft, and I'm telling you, it's still in my head, so sorry about that.
They'll find a way to mix it up.
No, I lost it. Where'd it go?
Plot thickens.
Or Fairdale.
Wait, that's not it, sorry. Sorry about this. I shouldn't have shown you.
You could be a travel trainer.
Right? I don't know. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm coming here on behalf of the Parks Authority to present the Parks Final Master Plan that was approved by the Parks Authority a couple months ago. I wanted to come to the City Council meeting because at one time the City Council was the Parks Authority, and they were the ones who actually initiated this process and got me underway to do the full 5-year master plan. So I thought it was appropriate, along with the current Parks Authority, to go through and give you a synopsis of what we ended up with. With that, the Parks Master Plan, 5-year master plan, is made up of 7 parts. Those are the 7 parts up there. It's the executive summary, park structure, goals and objectives, community analysis, facilities assessment, visioning and direction, and budget and priorities. And over the last couple of years, I've gotten 3 different parks authorities, so I put together the Parks Master Plan based on all 3 of those groups, which is why it took a little longer than I originally thought it would, but we got it together, and this is the document. Here is the overall parks existing map of existing parks. So we created that just to give you an idea of how many parks you actually have, and labeled them all and located them all. We created a full set of goals and objectives. I didn't go through all of those. It's a large set of them, but I did go through all the goals that the current Parks Authority has decided to try to meet or has on top of their head in terms of what they'd like to achieve. And this does not mean it has to be achieved over the next 5 years, but in some sort of time. And they range in all sorts of things, securing more park space, getting a field house, providing public awareness of parks, safety and security, things of that nature, and creating a good budget for these parks goals as well as one of the major portions of this plan. From there, we did a good bit of community analysis and public participation. We tried to do the public participation in several different ways. The first one was we did take the current Parks Authority out and toured all the parks on a trolley and got their ideas and gave them understanding of where the parks were, what the parks were made up of, and maybe some ideas of the existing conditions and what they thought could happen to some of those existing conditions to make the existing parks to make them a little bit better. From there, we actually had a workshop with current Parks Authority, put up some boards, got an understanding of really that's where we got their goals and objectives. You're able to discuss the programming of the parks, need for the parks, and so on and so forth. One of the major ideas was trying to get a large-scale park. What you'll find later is Jeffersonville, even though they have a lot of parks, it doesn't mean that they have a lot of acreage parks. They have a lot of smaller to medium-sized parks, but they're still short in terms of acreage, in terms of a state and national averages. We also did a public participation in terms of the entire Jeffersonville public. Sent out notices through several different means and methods. We did figure that a lot of the same things that the current Parks Authority has, the overall general public has as well. They like to see more safety and security, more maintenance on the current parks, which you're currently doing. They also like to see a little bit more passive recreation in the park system, meaning that you're not there for just a sporting event or you're not there for a certain activity. It's just going out there, enjoying nature, doing whatever you feel that you want to do in open space. So there was a need for that. And then, connection was another need. Connecting all the parks and connecting spaces within Jeffersonville from your downtown to your neighborhoods using the bike and ped plan. I thought that was a big necessity that Jeffersonville needs to continue to work on. We also got some of this information from an online public survey that we went on Facebook and on SurveyMonkey and spread out and tried to get as much analysis as possible. Like Jeffersonville, unless there's a critical issue at hand, it is hard to get people to be involved. So we did put this in the plan that we did not get the amount of participation that we really wanted, since this was just a general overview of the parks. But moving forward, if there's a specific park that needed to be addressed or a new park that might want to be built, that we re-involve the general public, as that seems to be the time when they come out in hordes, if you will. They like to see what's going on in specific areas and then really put their input in. So we put that in the plan to make sure that whatever goes forward, it will be brought up to the general public, and that's not going to be just done willy-nilly by Jeffersonville city government. So summary of community needs, again, a large centralized park, parks that have a natural balance between open space, lawn areas, water features. That was a need, was a water feature that we got many times in the general community. Amenities was also a big one, having a field house that is a little bit more usable than Nahan, we heard a couple times. It's not as big as some people would like. Safety elements, making sure you're safe wandering around the parks for lighting and overall cleanliness, things of that nature. So take a look at that. Again, and connectivity of all the different parks. The next step was doing a facilities analysis of all your existing parks. So what we did is actually went to every one of your parks. We looked at all of them through the process, and this as well, the Parks Authority is kind of changing people at all times. This gave us a chance to really go out there and take a look, take pictures, mark things that were good, mark things that need to be improved, and this is the rating criteria that we came up with. So if you see in that booklet that you have, if you see a lot of green in some of those areas, it means that the park's in really good shape. There's not a lot of need for improvement, but if you see a lot of red, might mean that there's some issues that are at that park that you might need to address in the near future. An example is that I just took Allison Brook Park. It's a fairly new park, so you see a lot of green, but you can see the different categories that we labeled. So we did just general to hardscapes, softscapes, site amenities. Again, this is a new park, and there's a lot of things that really don't need a lot of improvement. Some things that we did see were drainage and grading, lawns and grasses, landscape and gardens. Because it's so new, some of the grass might be a little bit more bare than other parks that you have. And we gave a little bit more deeper description in the booklet that you have, the master plan, and along with pictures for evidence or support. So that's just a general analysis of one of the parks. We did all the parks, and you can see that in the master plan. Moving on to visioning and direction, which is the next section. So I just want to give you a glimpse at some of the national and state averages. Jeffersonville has approximately 45,869 residents of the 2014 population estimate. For a national standard, 6.25 to 10.5 acres should be allocated per 1,000 residents. And as a state standard, 20 acres of development of open space per 1,000. So either one, Jeffersonville is still lacking. Jeffersonville has, let's see that. 160 to 170 acres. So according to states, national regulations, they're about 117 to 312 acres short, and state standards even more. 900. They need about 917 acres, and so they're about Jeffersonville is about 747 to 757 acres short. So as you can see, that's what we were basing some of our visioning on as we move forward, as the city moves forward in creating more parks. That's where the large open space is really something that's needed and wanted by the general public. There's a lot of parks, but there's not a lot of acreage of parks. So from visioning direction, we did two different things in visioning direction. We took all your existing parks that we did analysis of, and then tried to make suggestions of how to improve them. That was the first portion of it, and the second portion is actually future parks and making recommendations. So this first one, again, Allison Brook, but it's a fairly new one, but we gave some ideas of better pedestrian circulation and some nodal focal points, things that you can improve the park with. Since it had a lot of green, these aren't necessary, but you'll see in the master plan there are some parks that would need more work, and you'll see a little bit more detail in some of those images. So That's just one example of the visioning direction of each existing park. From there, again, we went into the community needs and new facilities, and this is really moving on to the end of the document of what Jeffersonville really needs moving forward. The three things that we looked at that was an overall concept through just analysis, community participation, Parks Authority, general government, general government wants and needs were maintenance and upkeep, connectivity and walkability, and then new facilities, having a large-scale park. First, the maintenance and upkeep, it's pretty self-explanatory, making sure that there's some mode to keep up the parks that are in service right now, weeding, lawn, graffiti removal, things of that nature. Second, connectivity and walkability. Again, a lot of people really, as we're moving on, and you see this in a lot of cities, the smart streets and making sure that each place is interconnected within the city. So you have a lot of outlying neighborhoods, but in order to get from one neighborhood to downtown or out to the aquatic center, you really have to take a car. Everyone thought it would be a great asset to develop, further develop the bike and walking trail master plan that was developed a couple of years back. So that was one major need that a lot of the residents really wanted to continue moving forward. So one of the things that the master plan pointed out were improving overall open space for the residents. We looked at two parks that could be further developed for this. The first one is Meadows Park. Excuse me. It's a nature preserve, and it's already owned by the city of Jeffersonville, but it hasn't been developed at all. The city of Jeffersonville, along with the Parks Authority and their parks director, thought it'd be very advantageous to start developing this into some type of trail system, using it for walking areas. It's a very large neighborhood that surrounds it. You could connect it very easily. So that was one part that they thought that would need to be improved and would greatly improve the overall open space that is available to the general public. Second one was Vissing Park. Next door to Vissing Park is a large area, and at the time, it's a great park, and the Parks Authority developed it, but looking at it as an open space, it does have open space, but not enough to suffice for national state averages. It does connect to a large open farm that, when we looked at it at the time, was for sale, and looking at expanding Vissing Park into what you see here and creating additional open space, possibly that lake feature that people really want, housing a field house here, things of that nature. So general passive areas for development. Should have brought water. So some of the disadvantages of this is that you don't own this property. Excuse me. It would take quite a bit of funding allocation and possibly some access areas to get into the park. There's one that's through Vissing Park right now that you could develop, but there's only one other. Thank you. I'm about to drop it all. Oh, thank you. So it would take an investment. There's some limited access to it right now. There's a railroad that is on one whole side of it. So there are some disadvantages to this, but overall there's more advantages than disadvantages. And looking at something of this area to develop as Jeffersonville moves forward, this size of park is something that I think it would be very well liked by the city as a whole. So it's not saying this is the spot, but something of this size, I think is. And then we looked at, finally, the future parks and just different areas that could be developed, whether it be utility areas, existing areas that are open for sale, existing areas that the city owns, things of that nature, and you can see those right there. So we developed a list of 8 different areas that you could develop into some different parks that would help spread out and develop a little bit larger park space. Finally, we looked at budget and priorities. This is just opinions of what it would take to develop some of those 8 parks that were mentioned just previously. You can see the different prices of them. If you develop them all right now, and based on how and what you would develop on those land, we came up with an estimate of about $31 million to develop all of those parks. Quite a bit of money, but this is not for 5 years. It's for future just understanding of what it would take to develop those parks and get you up to those national state averages. Finally, as it's just something to throw out there, what we put in the plan just to get everyone's interest and support. We looked at what it would look like to develop like a large open space. So here's Vissing Park, and you can see Vissing it would lead up into that new open space where it'd be a lot of multi-use. You could put several soccer fields on there just to give you reference. You can see this where it says field sports; those are soccer fields. A large field house would be easily located there. You could have some residents that are along the park. Large open space, frisbee golf. You can see a large area for that. The lake, learning centers, things of that nature. So really, this is something that I think is really beneficial to what Jefferson really wants from the general public down to your government officials, and what overall it needs moving forward in their park system. Here's just to reiterate, the Worley Fieldhouse was developed for Worley Field. It ended up not having enough room there, but wanted to go over that it was developed. This is a rendering of it compared to your Nahan, and it's quite a bit larger. It could fit about 3 basketball courts on there, tennis courts. It's a multi-purpose facility. It's not meant just for basketball. You could do concerts even there. So again, just to spark interest in the master plan of what could be and what is needed for Jeffersonville in their park system as they move forward. With that, open up for questions, comments.
I have one.
Yep.
Did you at any time, I know we have Bob Hedge Park, but did you assess the parks for handicap accessible?
Yes, and the overall, the park assessment, we did look at that. So we looked at if a lot of parks don't even have parking spaces. So needing to have parking nearby that is accessible. We looked at some of the trails that lead up to playground equipment are just stone, things like that would need to be concreted. So we did look at that.
What about the playground equipment itself? The reason why I bring that up, because I have an issue in my park, and then when I was up at Vissing Park, that issue was brought up to me again by another group of people that were there saying, why don't we have some of these pieces of equipment for our kids? And I'm like, I'll bring that back to the Parks Authority and ask them.
Yep, we did definitely go through that in that whole parks facilities analysis. And there's different degrees of ADA access to parks. According to guidelines, all that it's typically needed is something that you can go up to and with any sort of instrument, wheelchair, walker, whatever, and utilize it with your hands or feet or whatever. So it could be as simple as going up to the playground and having a sand pit that they can play in, or something on a wall that they can touch and feel and play with, to as extravagant as you roll a wheelchair up into a rocker and it rocks you and things like that. So it depends on the degree, but we did look at that, especially passage to the playgrounds, making sure that, or seeing that if there's a lack of passageway to those parks that should be upgraded.
But we need to concentrate more on the accessibility, because you do have parents that have children that are able to run and play, and they're not limited, in their capabilities, but then they do have somebody with a wheelchair or maybe in a walker or in braces that has to be with them too. So that's something that
Like you said,
want
you
to
do have a lot of parks that have those capabilities. It's not every park, but there are some options out there for those individuals.
On page 120, it gives the future parks, potential future parks, Matt. Are those in any way prioritized, or are they just 1 through 8 because that's just what they are?
The priorities is in, here's your priorities. So in the budget and priorities, you're looking at Bissing Park, so kind of skimmed over that a little bit. Whoop, sorry. Going the wrong way. So here's the priorities rating. So double green triangle means 5 years and above, to red down triangle, meaning it should happen more quickly. So you can see some of the parks that we looked at 1 through 8 there, the Bissing expansion in the next couple of years to start looking at developing that. Very sorry. To the Meadows Park, a little bit more immediate because it can happen, not as much needs to happen to start using that park, maybe a few trails, things like that, just to get people in there. Parking areas, there's no parking there right now, things like that. So, and then Duffy's Landing expansion, there's a lot of room at Duffy's Landing that has a lot of opportunities. It's being developed a little bit at a time, but it's not a huge priority at this time because you can still use it. But I think there's more opportunity out there for it since it's one of your few river access points. So there's not a lot of river access right now, which I thought was that's actually in the plan, is to try to gain more river access and get people to the river and enjoying those spaces along the river. So.
And I thought I heard you say that the Bissing Park expansion, which is first on our list,
Yep.
Did you say it at the time was for sale?
It's, yes, I believe. I'm not sure. I'm not a real estate person, but at the time it was for sale, yes.
One of the areas that I've been concerned about, and I brought that up earlier at a Parks Authority meeting, was the Claysburg area. Not only is it a food desert, but it's also a recreational desert. And I think that's something that needed to be included in here about what we're going to do to provide recreation for the children that's in that area. We've got a lot of density in that area with the housing projects and everything, and the children basically don't have anywhere to play.
Yep, and that's kind of where the 9th Street Park came in. It's very close to that Claysburg neighborhood, and be an opportunity for them in very short distance to...
9th Street Park would definitely, I wouldn't send my 7 to 12-year-old child across town to play, especially at a distance. Now, when I was a kid, we could do all of that, but today, it's not safe for them.
Yep, I understand.
I have a question. I have a question about connecting with schools.
Yes.
In your study, and you're looking at other communities, have you seen examples of where they partner with schools? And what I'm talking in particular of, we have schools in most every part of town. Many of the schools have large fields next to them. You see people chipping golf out there, playing tag football, whatever they're doing. And if the schools wind up doing the maintaining of the property, which is a big cost for us, I'm sure, mowing and all, if the city could potentially leverage our dollars and put in a walking track or put in upgraded equipment, if we could kind of work collaboratively with them, if that kind of leverages our parks, because I don't think in here you've got any of the school parks documented, right?
That's right. Specifically, the way that IDNR makes me develop this plan, we are not allowed to look at certain areas. Schools is one of them, others is like a private park, like, can't think of the name of it, the one right down East Street. Parent Park, thank you. Because at any one time, that property can be sold and used for something completely different. So IDNR does not like us to use parks that other people own, other spaces own, but that does not say that it can't obviously be an example. Actually, on here is the Shirley Hall Park, which is adjacent to TJ, and that was something that should be developed, because now that football is at Worley, that as an open space that could easily be redeveloped into something, so, and be partnered with the school.
I have a question. Going back to that building that you showed, how many, like, how big is that building that you're showing there? What's inside it, and what would it cost to build it?
So the building itself, it was about 35,000 square feet, and inside it, we had two smaller soccer fields. I think they would be able to be about a U8 size soccer field, two U8 soccer fields. We had two full-size basketball courts developed into 3 different tennis courts. There's a lot of there's countless ping pong courts, wrestling mats. You could do it as batting cages. Many different several batting cages. I think we had 9 alleys of batting cages. So there's a lot of, to give you kind of an example how big that space was. And when we developed that 4 years ago, it was about $3.5 million for the building itself.
And it had a walking track on top.
Yes.
The reason I ask that is just because, as we look at the field house and what we're going to put in the field house, I mean, I don't know, just for comparison's sake, I just want everybody to hear that, the flexibility, the efficiency, and the cost of something new, what we could do with it.
Yep. And I think the Parks Authority is going through an assessment right now of the Nahan Field House and what it would cost to get that up.
And another question, you showed the costs, like for connectivity and walkability, about $30 million, and then future budgets, future parks, $31 million change.
Yes.
Did you do any financial analysis about how we could pay for that?
One of the major, I don't know the interconnectivity and budgets total of Jeffersonville, but now that this has been approved by IDNR, there's actually a lot of land and water grants that are available for Jeffersonville. They encouraged, now that we had it approved, we were allowed to go out and write grants for land and water immediately this year to get additional funds. And since Jeffersonville has never really gotten any of those grants, they'd have the gentleman who I was talking to through IDNR said they're a great candidate because they have land and water. That'd be a great candidate for getting some of these grant funds to support new park spaces or updating parks, whatever the plan is. And all it would take is to have the plan approved, which is step 1, which we've done, and then 2, to have someone write a grant for it, go through that process.
Do you have that letter from DNR where they approved our plan and so we're eligible for the grants?
Yes.
Can you send me a copy of that, please?
Absolutely.
And one thing, and I don't see it anywhere, and since Ron started this, I'm going to jump in. The map on page 14, as someone who represents the 6th District of Jeffersonville, which is essentially the far northern end, this map, for the sake of having a map that shows all the parks, doesn't have the entirety of Jeff on it. And I'm not making fun of your map skills here. The point I'm making is the 6th District is devoid of any parks. And that's the part of town that is going to see the largest increase of people. And so if I live in Whispering Oaks and I want to go to a park that isn't Worley Field, which is just a soccer field, I have to go all the way to Vissing Park. After we include the 4 new traffic lights and the roundabout, that could be it could take me 20, 25 minutes to get there. Obviously, as someone who represents the 6th District, I hope there's been an emphasis on trying to find some land, because without saying it, I think I heard you say that Bissing Park isn't available, and the expansion of Bissing Park isn't available anymore. Is there anywhere else out there that has been looked at or targeted to attempt to snatch up property while it's still snatchable?
First, is the map that you're talking about the one that shows all the parks?
Correct, on 14?
So, this one?
Yeah.
Right, so
Yeah.
right, we only, and you're correct, we did not include the entire boundary of actual Jeffersonville in there. During the public participation, you can see these boards here. We did include that in the process, though, so I want to make sure that you understood that. We did not...
Oh, yeah, I'm not making a comment on like anybody's,
It's just
arbitrarily cutting. It's just telling in the fact that you can crop that part of the map off because there isn't anything up there.
Understand.
I mean, that's the point I'm
Right.
making.
So if you go back to this map, there is, you're right, Worley's up there. That's pretty much the only one. A lot of that land is taken up by, drawing blank here, River Ridge. It was hard to find land in that area that was for sale. I didn't go on a general real estate map and say, this one's for sale, this one's for the, I didn't do that. I let some of the people around me in terms of government officials and past authority members, things like that, kind of direct me into some areas that were available at the time. Again, this has been developed a little bit over the last 2 to 3 years, so a lot has changed in that amount of time. We did, so I can't read that number, the one up in the top left there, I can't read the number there, it's a little earlier. Is that 6? That
Development of Charlestown Pike Park.
That was a piece of property that at the time was for sale. It was a pretty large area, it's 23 acres, and that would help fulfill some of that land needed for park system. It's right on the other side of Utica Pike, near Worley. And I think, again, at the time it was for sale. I'm not sure if it's still for sale, but that's about the size of the park. Now, there is a lot of open land up there that is, I don't know if it's for sale, but it's open and it's used by farmers or not used by farmers anymore. That could be appropriate to locate one of these the larger park, similar to what we were starting to look at Bissing. So that's where the next step is, and I think the idea was to show you a size of park that you need to start fulfilling the requirements for land acreages for state and national requirements. The Bissing Park was a good idea because it fulfilled that, but and also looking at that area because, like you said, you're absolutely correct. That is where the growth is going to be happening. That's where the most open space is for subdivisions, and subdivisions are already going in there. And it's also the new interchange for 265. So that area in general, I did not look at and say, this land's for sale, this land's for sale. Go out there and reach out to Joe Farmer and say, is your land for sale? I did not do that. But that's not saying that the city can't go out there and start asking questions and saying, we need to have approximately 100 acres that we'd like to purchase for a park. And we'd like to locate it somewhere in this area because that's similar size of what that Bissing Park expansion is. And talking to some of the local residents and saying, are you willing to sell some of this land? Because there is quite a bit of land still available. And the idea is before those subdivisions really go in there, I think talking to Nathan Pruitt, your planning director, and talking to the Parks Authority and getting that organized before those spaces start filling up is really a must-have, because once those subdivisions start going in, you're again scrunching your space down, and you're going to start developing smaller parks, and people aren't going to want smaller parks. They're going to want something large out there.
Mr. Hawkins, let me say, there's no parks out there, in large part because that was the county, and the county didn't have any parks. So with annexation, the council asked for a levy increase for the Parks Department, and we got that levy increased. And that's why Worley Park happened, Worley Fields out there, because we wanted to increase the parks out in the newly annexed area. Those folks are paying their taxes, and they need to have some amenities as well. And so the Worley Park was one of those expansions into the newly annexed area. And the plan was to continue to go that way, at least back then with the council. The tough part with buying property and developing property is the parks budget doesn't allow for it. They don't have the money to do it. The only way for it to happen is for the fiscal body to get involved and to, find the money, save the money to get it, or go in debt for the money, or, come to terms with a landowner. So it involves the fiscal body to buy land and to develop that land, because the parks budget doesn't have enough resources to do any of that.
One of the things that we need to look at also is they're talking about the connector road to the airport.
The heavy haul? Is that what you're talking about?
No, not the heavy haul. There's going to be a road from INAP, hopefully at some time in the future, to the airport, which will open up about 6,000 acres for development. So if we're going to look at getting some acreage out in that area, we need to start looking at that now before it's all claimed and turned into subdivision.
Let me add, 4 years ago, the Parks Authority did do a land search, and it's very difficult because all those farmers who are looking, or landowners in general, they see with what's going on out there, and the price is astronomical. So first of all, if you're going to buy land, you want to try to find flat land and cleared land, at least something you could, do something with, and that's the most expensive. So then you have the next options are, land that's swampy, or land that has a lot of trees and hills and rocks, and then it costs a lot to try to make a field or make to make it usable for parks. So it's a real challenge. But it's been a few years since we've done that. I'm sure costs have gone up, but I think that's exactly what we need to do, is have an active committee or active group looking for land, because we definitely need to expand our parks in your general district, my opinion.
Is there any more questions? I'd like to get this part wrapped up. We still got quite a bit left in our agenda. Is there any other questions or comments? Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot for your help.
Okay, Sarah Green, an ordinance amending ordinance 2016 OR 11, which amends ordinance 2006 OR 14, ordinance regulating the treatment and keeping the domestic, dangerous, and/or vicious animals within the city limits of the city of Jeffersonville. That was a mouthful.
That was a mouthful. This is just a small amendment about livestock in the city. I think there was a thought process that maybe we would have this under agricultural zoning, but then there are people in the city that would like chickens as well, so we decided we were just going to amend the ordinance to no livestock in the city, which it was before in the 2006. And then just put a limit on 5 chickens on any one property unless that property exceeds an acre. So that would, allow people with bigger acreage to have a little more freedom there, so.
I like that you incorporated that, because we had something in your ordinance, we had something in code enforcement, planning and zoning, so I'm glad you incorporated it all together.
Roosters already
They were in the 2006, but they're not. But we have complaints here and there about roosters in the city limits. It would annoy me, I think, at 5 in the morning.
Does we have situations in Jeff now that will be impacted by this?
About the livestock or the...
Any of the changes we're making?
There's a couple properties, I think, with the amount of chickens. One off of Springdale, off one of the streets in Springdale, has tens and tens of these animals, so.
But if anybody contacted the city, they were told 5 chickens, no roosters, because I had a neighbor that called planning and zoning, and that's what they were told.
Mm-hmm.
So I think pretty much the public knows no more than 5 chickens and no roosters. See, Nate, yeah, I see you're back, you're shaking your head, isn't that correct?
Would they be grandfathered in? Or is that, no, it's just,
So, Mr. Merkley and I were talking about probably passing, I understand, 2 readings. There's a couple things we want to look at about the mini farms, whether the language in here might be interpreted to exclude things like that. But, I mean, the way it looks, it's fine. We have just a couple of questions. And the other question, Mr. Merkley and I have, which is very serious, I think it's something to consider because of the potential for federal litigation. Are you discriminating against roosters? Come on.
No, I'm not.
Chickens, we got no roosters, right?
Chickens don't make noise.
Oh,
Or that kind of noise, anyway.
I'm just saying, you know.
Roosters protect the hens. They really do. I mean, if you, well,
Well, I mean.
they do. Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Can't get
Well,
another
if
chicken
they're
without...
in a coop, then they should be
Yeah,
protected.
if you don't, you have to build a shelter to protect them.
Sure.
What
yeah.
about if somebody's already got roosters? That's what, I mean, is this like an ex post facto situation?
Grandfathered in, if you've already got your rooster.
Is that correct? Are they, they're grandfathered? We had discussed that. Same like with
You can't go take them. You can't go take their rooster.
Yeah. We've had before, there is a specific property that has horses that was grandfathered in by the previous administration, but the problem is those die out and they get more, they sneak it in. And then, I can't really identify the rooster, but.
I think probably
3 doors down.
between now and next week, we need to address, like, if you have so many acres.
Then you have to go to his cage again.
Now, we're trying to limit this within the city or within the urban area. We've got some people who have several acres that rank in the city where
Can that be like, can they ask for a variance or something, or?
well, the zone, I think we just deal with it by acreage. That's what a lot of cities does.
Okay.
But I mean, we can do that between now and next.
What's the ordinance number?
So council, you are recommending we just pass this on first reading and then we'll address all this?
Okay. Let's all get together, we'll kind of look at, because we were looking at the old ones while we were talking, and I looked at it before.
What's the ordinance number? Motion to pass, oh.
Les and I got into bigger conversations about which one of us were.
Can we take a hard look at the roosters and the number of chickens? I do have people in my district who have roosters and chickens. And
Yeah,
I want to talk to them before I do something here.
I have for a long time.
Yeah,
Just
I mean,
because people are moving to organic, they eat their eggs and,
Doesn't say anything.
Motion to pass 2017 OR 23 on the first reading.
I'll second.
I got a motion, a second to pass 2017 OR 23 on the first reading only. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Aye. Okay, motion carries. And now, Sarah, we're moving into your quotes for the animal shelter.
Several months ago, Amir and Kim and Lisa were at the animal shelter and we were discussing some security issues, specifically with the front area and the lobby. I, out of my budget, have been able to, in the 2017 budget, pay for a couple panic buttons and an extra camera, but in terms of keeping the people at the front desk safe, we have gotten some quotes that Amir has asked me to get from Wallace Glass and Glazing and Cutter Construction about a steel door in the front area right by the kind of reception window, and also a bulletproof glass with speaker and slide through in the front lobby, like right when you walk in. They talk to the office person.
Catch me up to speed here. Has there been, are people coming in and roughing up the people at the counter? Like, what has prompted this?
We had a gentleman come in that encountered me at the front desk with a gun in August, so that kind of prompted a little bit. And that, we deal with a lot of court cases that go on for months and months, and some angry people, so.
That was that, but you average quite a bit, people that are coming in irate, because I've been out there where they've come out of the car and they've come in because either they have to pay to get their animal back after so many, she has she deals with that quite often.
Mm.
And they come in, I know,
We've had support.
yeah.
Is there money in your budget for this?
Mm-mm.
No. So this would be additional appropriation for it?
Yeah,
Correct.
because she's done what she was able to do within her budget. And
How much do you think about, I don't expect you to know the exact number, but so far, what have you spent on like security measures out of your budget this year?
Well, we had the,
we had the panic
The
buttons.
cameras.
The cameras.
but I mean, that doesn't help at that time, but the cameras, I think last year was about 17,000. The panic buttons were only, I think, 150 apiece. I did have to hit that once when a gentleman had a baseball bat, and 10 minutes later I got a phone call asking if I needed police assistance, so that led to maybe talking about the bulletproof glass, because 10 minutes is a long time.
Is there any other questions or concerns? If, we can give Heather the direction to have this additional appropriation, or...
Do you need anything else for your safety? That's my question. Let's not shortchange you or your employees in any way. People come with you with bats and you feel this way. I want to make sure you guys are safe. Do you need anything else?
I don't know what else we could do that would, we're just a little, kind of out of the way, so
Yeah, I know.
kind of puts us in
I know where you're at, yeah.
That bridge, and they're back there off the beaten path.
So the total we're looking at
Do you have enough
is
lighting back there?
10,000.
24.
Yeah.
We had
26.
Duke put in a couple of lights, gosh, I think that was 2013. The back's not very well lit, to be honest. And then we do have officers there in the evening, which in the summer isn't as big of a deal, but in the winter does concern me a little bit.
And you got to remember when they brought in about court costs too, she has to house by court order some animals there, and you remember that time you had that one that came in and didn't agree with the court order and came back demanding her dog. She has a court order to hold a dog, and this guy comes in irate, forces him way back, wanting to take his dog.
And that was a 7-month hold.
Yeah.
So, I mean, some of these go on for a very long time, and
Somebody, so let's say someone lets their dog out, and somebody picks the dog up, takes it to the shelter. Does the owner then have to pay to get the dog?
correct. And that's per ordinance, depending on how many times, there's a first, second, and third at-large fee. If animal control picks it up, it's an animal control fee. I mean, I do at times waive the fee if it's,
If the neighbor picks it up, though, there's a fee.
if a neighbor if they bring it to the animal shelter. Mm-hmm.
And I want to make sure I'm understanding this right. Callie and I just decided I did, but 2426 plus 8758. That's the two things, and there's only two things. Okay.
Doesn't this need to be an additional appropriation or something?
Yeah, she's wanting to see if she has the support to move forward for an additional appropriation.
So what do we need to do? Yes, is what I say, but I mean, what do you need me to do? What do you want me to do?
Need the additional appropriation.
Yeah, and
Okay.
we also have two council members not here that I think, I'm sure they would like to be caught up on this situation and
Okay,
have that information.
sure.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
West Berkeley, a resolution describing the Arts District proposal requesting funds from the Clark Floyd County's Convention and Tourism Board.
I believe you're aware of the fact, I know Don has spoken to this to the council, and Don and Delenn have worked together to secure funding from the Tourism Bureau to help fund the new Arts and Cultural District. The Tourism Board is ready to proceed with that funding as pursuant to issuing a bond that it's allowed to under state law. Before they start that process, they would like to have a formal request from the city, that being the city council, requesting that they do that, of $1 million to be paid toward the project in the Arts District.
Motion to approve 2017 R5.
Second.
I got a motion and a second to pass resolution 2017 R5. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Mr. Merkley, you have an ordinance amending the City of Jeffersonville's 2035 Comprehensive Plan, which updates the future land use map.
I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Pruitt, since he has much more knowledge about this than I do.
Okay.
Good evening, Council. I'm going to be very brief for you. I've got 4 points, basically, and so this is going to be a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission to amend the future land use plan in the comprehensive plan. So the comprehensive plan is a several-page document, as you know, which guides us on what we should be doing citywide for all types of planning improvements. It assesses all of our facilities and our infrastructure, our land uses, things like that. And part of that is the future land use plan. And so what this is it's a document that guides you and Plan Commission on decisions that you need to make in regard to requests for rezoning. And so if a property owner comes to you and asks for a rezone of a property, one of the questions by state statute that you're supposed to ask is, how does this link to the comprehensive plan? Does it actually further that goal, and does it align with the vision that the community has set for itself for what future land uses should be throughout the city? So basically, this is a policy guide. This isn't something that changes zoning on any property. This is just something you refer to as you move forward when you look at those requests from private landowners. And so it helps us define where things are going to be in the future, basically. And so I'll run through quickly the 4 points, the 4 major changes that we had here. And you'll see in the staff report, we did list every change that we made. It's actually listed bullet by bullet. But at the very, very beginning, you can see on the first page, it says the update includes. The biggest policy shift here is that we transitioned all of our agricultural future land use into residential. This is for the purposes of meeting our future housing demand. River Ridge obviously continues to grow. We get developments filed every other day in our office that are 500,000 square feet in River Ridge. And so basically, we're going to see a lot of job growth. And I just want to point one more time, since we have a new council person on council, that we do have a housing study that we did and employment forecasting for the city of Jeffersonville. And based on those changes, what do we need as far as housing stock to meet our future demand? This lines up with that. Basically, it's taking that hard numbers and putting it on a map. So I'll definitely send this out again so that everyone can reference that again. So basically, agricultural land that's out there today, all those legacy farms, they can continue. Many of them are zoned agricultural. That zoning stays in place. That's going to be in our zoning code. That doesn't change. We're just saying, as a policy moving forward, we're going to put a priority on meeting our housing demand. And if the landowner chooses voluntarily to come to us and develop, we would like that opportunity to assess doing residential in those areas. There was one legacy farm that is not on board with that concept. And you'll see actually in the top left corner of your map there's a long sliver of light green at the very top of the map, just south of Whispering Oaks. And we worked out a scenario where basically we update our open space category to include agricultural land in it, and we actually left that as green space, so in the top left corner there. So we met with actually several legacy farm owners and discussed this and these concepts. And that's going to lead into my next point, which is if you look along Silver Creek, which is our northern city boundary, we actually have a great water amenity there, Silver Creek. And believe it or not, there is actually a floodplain there. We probably shouldn't put homes there in the future as a general idea, because obviously FEMA flood rates are increasing on homes. We want to keep those out of there. So there's an opportunity for in the future, and this links to Matt Gullo's presentation in the Parks Master Plan, there's an opportunity in the future to work with those landowners and say, hey, can we get a trail system in along the creek? Can we open up that blue way so that people can actually access it and get through? Can we install a trailhead? So there's actually a recreational spine that goes across that entire Silver Creek area. One of the landowners, the farmers that have had that piece of land for several decades, actually was very excited by that idea, and she was on board with it. She was excited to hear that we were trying to plan for those things in the future because she doesn't want that part to be developed. So that's the other thing, is we did take care of that floodplain, and we left some agricultural and open space or recreation passive space there. The other big thing is we had some transition of land assessments in the 265 corridor. Obviously, a new bridge came through, we opened up that roadway, and all of a sudden, trees started coming down. So we realized that in a lot of those areas, agricultural is not something that's going to happen in the future. It's also not going to be residential. There's some commercial areas that are developing. And so we just made an amendment to kind of reflect that reality. Because at the end of the day, Jeffersonville is changing very quickly. And usually a future land use map wouldn't be updated but once every 5 years. We're needing to assess it every couple of years because we are in such a rapid growth cycle. And it's really exciting. We're getting lots of new development and new interest in the city. The last thing is we adopted, or we created a new residential classification. So in this future land use plan, we have single family and we have multifamily. Those are two separate categories. And what we also did is we created something called mixed residential. So that gives us the option to do either or a combination of the two. So we picked out some areas that are next to our interstates, the new Exit 1 near Old Salem Road. That's obviously connecting into the business park. The River Ridge Development Corporation is developing right now. Those new roads are going in and those parcels are being carved out for office park. Huge opportunity to get some housing units in there that could be multifamily in the future next to the interstate and along that roadway there. So we added a third residential category that gives us more flexibility for both Plan Commission and City Council to assess going either direction, or a blend of the two, so you're not just stuck in one or the other. So those are the biggest 4 changes to the comprehensive plan. I think this reflects a good 10-year vision of residential growth. It's really going to help us hit our housing demand. We expect to need about 4,700 new housing units in the next 10 or so plus years. This is going to get us at least 60% there, I think. So it's really linking up with where we think we're going to be headed with residential growth in the future. And we're turning out a lot of building permits, I'll tell you that, for single family, and we're about to hit our cap for what's been platted. So we're going to see new plats come in soon, and I think the development pressure is going to happen. And that's all going to be negotiated privately. That's not something the city's going to do, but we're ready to assess that, and I think this sets us on a good stage to receive that development if those property owners so wish. So if you've got any questions, I'll certainly take them.
So in reality, what's the difference between multifamily residential and mixed residential?
It just means that it can be either single family detached or it could also be multifamily. Previously, we had two categories, single or multi. You couldn't be one, or you only could be
so
one.
Somebody in multi can't build single.
Essentially, yes. Yeah, if they were to rezone, this is a future land use map though, this isn't the zoning map. So if they're zoned single family residential, but the future land use plan calls for multifamily, then it would suggest that if they were to seek a rezoning, they could build multifamily, but again, it's all tied to the zoning. This is just a guide for changes. But what this is giving you in that new mixed category is the option to do either zoning. So if it's going from ag, you can either go single family or you can go multifamily. You're not stuck to just one or the other.
You could do some townhomes, and then you could do some single.
Yeah, you could blend it too if you wanted. You're not required to blend it, but it gives you the option. Just more flexibility for us in the future.
You have changed on the bottom of page 2 of 7. It says changed the meadows to open space. What is that, the very bottom?
The Meadows is the park that was previously presented.
Okay.
That's the Meadows Park. We probably should have put park, but I think it's zoned residential, or future land use was indicating residential, and that's not going to happen. Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve 2017 OR 24 on the first and second. Do you have
Do we need public comment? I don't know.
public hearing? Oh wait, this is just a one.
Isn't this just a one hearing? or
That's
one
right.
reading?
So we would need to.
I'm
open-
sorry.
No, you're right. I was thinking 3 readings.
It's not a rezone, though. Oh, okay.
But it isn't a rezoning. This is an
I
amendment to
revoke
the
my
zoning
motion.
code.
My motion's
Okay,
not-
because I have, perhaps because of ignorance, I look at this map and I look at the places up north of I-265 that can now be mixed residential, and I know that I'm going to have 500 people with pitchforks and lanterns, if that means what they think it means. And I don't know exactly what it means. So that for me will need some more explanation, because what that tells me is somebody's going to have the choice. If the planning commission follows this to its letter of intent, that means multifamily gets to go in without going through a variance process to put multifamily in. Am I understanding that correctly?
Not exactly, because at the end of the day, the Planning Commission will give you a recommendation to change the zoning on that property. If it's ag, and they say, and a developer comes and says, we want to do, a 100-unit apartment next to some of this industrial land, Planning Commission will vote. They will either send it with a favorable or an unfavorable recommendation. City Council will then make a vote to approve or not approve the change.
What I'm
argument stronger to me.
That's what I'm saying. If the planning commission is really going by this, well, then they should be approving it. And then if the planning gives it to us and we don't have a reason to get it, we should be approving it. It makes their argument stronger to get it when I don't want it. The people up there don't want it. That's my, now I think I'm understanding it right. Did I just explain that correctly?
Yes, the vote will be in your hands, and you will be assessing it. This is one of, I think, 5, is it 4 or 5 criteria? There's 5 different criteria for rezoning. This is only one of 5 by state code.
I myself, and I'm one of 7 here, I'd like to table this, because that part of this, I'm not for. And I'm really excited about the Silver Creek part you talked about, and that ties in with what a park up there that's needed. Getting rid of the agriculture. I mean, there's the parts that I like, but then so I'll vote no on it if I got to vote on it right now. So I'd like to table it.
Make a motion to table.
All right, well, I'll make a motion to table.
I got a motion, do I have a second? Got a motion and a second, any further discussion?
To table.
I revoked my
table.
motion.
Yes, she did. Yes, she did.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thanks.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? It is tabled.
So when it comes back, you've got to remember to do a
Public hearing. Correct. Larry, do you have anything for your city council attorney report? Do you have anything to report on
Just
tonight?
another opportunity to say thanks for the opportunity, and it's good to be here, and things are moving well.
All right.
I've been discussing that, we just don't get to do things like we did in 2006.
And I didn't see any other department head. Paul, did you have something you needed to say? Okay. Was there any public comment? Anybody sign up for public comment? Les? No? Okay. Then we will move on to council comments. So, District 1, Councilperson White.
I have no comment.
Councilperson Zastani
No
for
comment.
District 2. District 3.
No comment.
Well,
Councilperson.
I do.
Always wanted to.
3 things real quick. I'd like to just put in the minutes that I wish Scotty gets back quickly, and also put, in spite of the fact that he's a Reds fan, I would like to see him back here despite his taste in baseball teams. Number 2, I want to be a part of looking at potentially land in the northern part of the city. Ed says that maybe we need to start push it. He's been around, he knows that is the correct course of action. I don't know what the steps are for me to have to do that, but I'm going to start doing that. And I hope I can get a couple other people to start making inquiries and looking with me. And then the last thing is, thanks for supporting the tabling on that. I know everybody didn't have to do that. That's it.
Well, that was easy.
Always is.
At-large Councilperson Ellis.
Yes, there is going to be a community conversation on addiction in our community. It will be on Tuesday, May the 9th at the Casey Building. All the public is invited to attend, and I think it would be good if we discussed more about addiction in our community. It's coming out more and more, and hopefully this is sponsored by the River Ridge Cluster of United Methodist Churches, so hopefully everyone comes out and participates in this.
Councilperson Elvis, if it's okay with you, we can scan this in and put it on the council's Facebook page.
That'd be great.
Is that all that you had?
That's all I have.
At-large Councilperson Nathan Sanko.
I had the opportunity to see Councilperson Scotty Maples today, and he looked very good, but he thinks he'll be in the hospital a little bit longer, and continued thoughts and concerns for him. Other than that,
As you all know, we had thunder, that a lot of visitors to the city, and I just wanted to publicly thank the police department and the fire department. They did an exceptional job in keeping the event safe and family-oriented, and also maybe in department heads, we pass on our thanks to the department head, the Parks Department, the Street Department. I mean, all the departments that there was a lot of time and energy put into thunder and cleanup afterwards, and just want to pass on our appreciation for that. And also, as you all know, we got a email from Stephanie. It's in their budget, but as you know, we have the $5,000 buddies to come before us, and I would like to go ahead and bring it up tonight because we have an issue with getting emails and all that, so I want either us do this publicly, that they want to purchase 2 10-yard dumpsters at $3,500 each, and 2 40-yard dumpsters at $5,250 each. And she also wanted me to bring up the fact that they've already had to pay out $18,000 just in dumpster rentals. So there is a need for these, and it is in their budget. So if somebody would like to make a motion to allow this.
so moved.
I'll second.
I got 'em.
The dumpsters that they put around the neighborhoods?
This is dumpsters for everything that they, even for use in the neighborhoods, or even a dumpster is needed after a fire, or
We don't own any?
Yeah, they rent them also.
we rent them. Yeah.
Oh.
We rent them, but we also use them for neighborhood cleanup and all that, the city, yeah. So I got a motion, a second. Is there any further discussion? I didn't know if Ed, did you have something or not? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes, so you please let her know that she can proceed.
What was the total amount?
17,500.
72,000?
17,000, yes. And it's,
You can write my check.
and they have it in their equipment line already. They just got the go-ahead approval to do that. And I too pass on my thoughts and well wishes and prayers for Councilperson Maples. I hope that he's here our next meeting. But that's all I have, so I have a motion to adjourn.
Yep, so moved.
Move it.
Meeting adjourned.